Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Modern Goonies podcast. I'm your host, Trevor King Minor, and I'm hanging out with my badass co-host, Michael Ross.
I don't know what I said last time. Michael fucking Ross. What's up?
There we go. All right, so welcome to Season 1, Episode 3, and tonight's topic is natural disasters. So let's just go ahead and get right into it. I did not do a whole lot of research, as you know, Michael. I just was kind of fucking winging this one, but I don't feel like it's going to be too difficult to talk about, especially living in Texas. We kind of have like a brush with a natural disaster every fucking spring season. So I'll let you start this one off. So what was kind of some of the stuff that you were looking at? What was some angles that you took on this?
Well, I was just looking at damage and facts that I thought people would find interesting.
Okay.
I mean, that seems like a standard for just about anything.
I guess.
As fucking obvious as that may sound.
Yeah.
But I guess we can just jump right into the Lubbock tornado.
Oh, so you actually looked that up a little bit then.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, the podcast is Natural Disasters and Lubbock Tornado.
Yeah, I'm going to scrap that little ending piece and just call it natural disasters. But I looked at some of this too. I actually realized that there's like a documentary from like the late 70s where they kind of recreated what the city would look like while this was going on.
Hell yeah.
Kind of like how it was more like kind of like a training video on how to respond to natural disasters. So they kind of showed like what the city would look like during in these times of crisis, like how you should handle it. Because apparently they handled it like pretty well. But if you go back and you watch that documentary, you got to see like some footage of what Lubbock looked like, completely fucking decimated. And yeah, it was insane. But what did you learn about it?
Well, some really cool stuff. For example, a 26,000-pound fertilizer tank was launched nearly a mile by the tornado.
Yeah,
that's fucking insane.
So, like, do you think you think it means like horizontally, right? Not just like thrown into the air? Because I didn't remember reading if it was like thrown into the air that far or it just launched it that far.
Yeah, so to me, that means there's a mile of distance between where it was at first and where it landed.
Yeah, that's absolutely fucking insane.
Yeah, nature's fucking powerful.
Did you happen to read on how long the tornado was? Like how like the actual miles?
Fuck. No, I
didn't. I'll pull it up and let's take a look because I looked up this one storm that is absolutely insane on its length. But here, let's see. Lubbock tornado. So for those who don't know, the Lubbock tornado was a F5 absolutely catastrophic tornado that rolled through Lubbock in 1970. And I mean, it pretty much just like leveled everything it touched in Lubbock itself. Like it absolutely destroyed the city. It did like what? How much? $1.67 billion in damage in today's money. It completely fucked up the city.
It's the fifth costliest tornado since 1950.
Really?
According to the National Oceanic and Aeronautic Administration.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't see how how wide it was, but it was absolutely insane.
You were talking about how a lot of shit was destroyed. Something I didn't really think about was nearly all trees in Lubbock and like at the Texas Tech campus were destroyed.
Oh, that's a shame. There's not many fucking trees in Lubbock anyway, so that's a shame.
Yeah. Like there were some special trees that they were planting. I forget the name, but it's like Chinese something. And those trees got fucked too.
Yeah, I'm not surprised at all. So one thing that I did end up reading about this is that this was actually like a really good opportunity for Lubbock to expand their like weather program. So what they did, they set up like a bunch of testing sites outside of Lubbock, and Lubbock has one of the best like meteorology departments, I guess, because of that. Because it's out in West Texas. There's not a whole lot around, so you can just kind of study the effects of tornadoes and kind of how they form and whatnot. And so apparently even the guy who created the scale that we measure tornadoes in, like it's called the Fujita scale. He actually went and did some research out in Lubbock after that tornado, and it helped him develop his scale, which is, for those who don't know, like when you're actually saying like, oh, a tornado is F1 to F5, what you're really saying, you're not like commenting on the size of it, you're commenting on some degree of wind speed and the damage that it's going to do, or that it does later. So yeah, so it helped him kind of like evaluate his scale. So obviously that one was like F5, complete decimation. Yeah.
Another thing, like another unbelievable thing, is that the tornado picked up a house off its foundation and hurled it like 600 feet. Unfortunately, it killed the family of 5 inside, like as fucking expected. But the fact that wind,
I wasn't expecting that.
yeah, fucking imagine you're sitting in your house just chilling. Well, okay, you wouldn't be chilling because there's a fucking tornado. But, you're in your house, terrified probably, and all of a sudden you're lifted and then flung 600 feet with your family and you all die.
I wouldn't have much time to think about it because I'd be like, oh shit, and then dead. That's it. That's just how it. Oh my God.
Well, I mean, you've got a pretty good amount of time when you're being thrown 600 feet.
I mean,
those seconds would probably feel like hours.
I guess when you're at death's door, fuck.
Yep.
Well, yeah, I guess so. Yeah, it's not one of the more deadly ones in history. I actually don't know which one takes the cake on that. It might be like Joplin, but
Joplin is definitely the most expensive.
That one's the most expensive. All right, it might also be the most deadly. So then I wanted to mention this one. So I was looking at some information on like tornadoes, and the El Reno tornado kept popping up, and it's not like, I don't think it did too much damage. It killed like some pretty prominent storm chasers. It killed like a couple teams of storm chasers because this is like, I think, the biggest tornado on record.
Shit.
Yeah, it is this article is about the record-breaking tornado in 2013. It was an F5, and it is the widest tornado ever recorded. Yeah.
How wide?
It was 2.6 miles wide. So imagine a fucking tornado almost 3 miles wide. It's just this gigantic wall of death approaching you. And that was the thing I think I was reading, is that some people didn't quite realize how much danger they were in, because when it was coming towards the city or when it was moving down the road, it kind of just looks like a bunch of, like rain's coming your way, like a bunch of precipitation, because it's fucking 3 miles wide.
Yep.
And so, like, even some of the storm chasers didn't realize, because, like, while you have this gigantic vortex, there's these other vortexes inside of it that are swirling around at different speeds. So, like, it looked like they had more time to kind of get out of the path, but they didn't realize, no, they're fucking in the path and you're fucked. And so, yeah, I don't think it didn't kill, like, a whole lot of people, but it killed some, like, famous storm chasers. I know that.
Damn.
Yeah, and of course, these people have like the fucking armored cars and shit like that. Like,
yeah.
that's what blows my mind, is that these things were so strong that, yeah. Well, because I think that one had winds up to like 300 miles an hour in some areas. Like, and I watched like a video. They're like, oh yeah, you want to know what that would do to your face? And it shows like basically like an astronaut like with 300 mile per hour winds. And like you can like just see his cheekbones because his face is flapping so hard because the wind is so fast.
Fuck.
Yeah, it's insane. Overall, the tornado was only responsible for about like 8 fatalities, so like it's not bad. 151 people were injured, but it was on like the outskirts of this town, and it's kind of like it was way more out in a rural area, so there wasn't a whole lot of damage for it to do. But if it had just been like a little bit further over, it would have hit Oklahoma City, and that would have fucking like wiped out Oklahoma City, like leveled skyscrapers and shit. Like they even said like at that point, it was like so bad that it would definitely do substantial damage to skyscrapers, which I guess they're pretty sturdy. I guess if a tornado runs into one, it's not going to fuck it up too bad. But in that case, it was like, nah, it's going to fuck up your skyscraper.
Yeah. There was a skyscraper or a tall, I don't even know if it was a skyscraper or just a high rise, but whatever it was, a tall building was bent slightly because of the Lubbock tornado.
Oh, yeah. I listened to that, too. That's right.
Do you know if it was a skyscraper or...
It was... I don't really know the difference between a skyscraper and a high-rise, but yeah, it was like a skyscraper, basically.
Okay.
But yeah, that's insane.
Yeah. Skyscraper wasn't destroyed, but it was definitely bent.
Jesus Christ. Look at this. So this is what this El Reno tornado did to... you'll have to bend over. Did to this fucking... This is a... Chevrolet Cobalt, and look at what it fucking did to this car. It looks like if you crush a beer can in your hand is what this car looks like.
Yeah, like basically the frame of the car is crumpled as shit, and the wheels are absolutely not in line. It's actually missing one of the wheels.
I'll tell you what, it's because the drive shaft went through the hood in this case. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, I don't have my glasses on, so I can't.
No, I'm fucking around.
I got you. Fuck.
Callback. Yeah, so those were all I really looked up on tornadoes. But I mean, living here in Texas, I mean, we have plenty of like our own stories. Do you have any? Because I mean, I know we have that one that you and I can both bounce off of each other.
Yeah.
I mean, what's like the closest call you've ever had with a tornado? I'd say.
Well, see, that's sort of difficult because my perception of the event is actually sort of warped by it happening when I was like 4.
Oh, okay.
But I used to live in Kansas, and
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, Kansas is like right in the middle of Tornado Alley. So I don't remember exactly what happened, but the sky was like pitch fucking black.
Yeah.
And there was lightning everywhere, and like my babysitter was freaking out, and at the time I really couldn't understand why, but for some reason she wanted to take out the trash or something. So like me, my brother, and my babysitter all went outside to take the trash out for some fucking reason. And in the distance, I just saw pitch black sky, like heavy winds, lots of rain, fucking lightning. And like she was screaming, and so I cried.
What a horrible idea. Hey, there's a tornado outside. Let me take the children with me to take out the garbage.
Yeah. And so she huddled us in, like us as in my brother and I, because Alexis wasn't born yet, my sister. So she huddled us in our room and just piled blankets on top of us, and we just stayed there. To this day, I don't know how close we were to the tornado.
Yeah.
Like what damage it was doing or anything.
Right.
I don't even know when the fuck this was, but I was terrified.
Yeah, I mean, justifiably so. Yeah, my grandfather fucking terrorized me with a tornado whenever I was like 8, because I remember I was never like, I always thought storms were pretty cool, but then I had like this traumatic experience with my grandfather. And it's not the closest I've ever come to being in one, but I mean, it was like at that time when you're 8, like, yeah, that's as close as you're gonna come. And so I go with him to some place. He's like, oh yeah, let's go play some mini golf and let's go get some tacos. And so we pull up to the mini golf, and I mean, the sky is like this eerie, like yellowish color. Yep. And like clearly it does not look good outside, but he is like oblivious as fuck. And then like he's like, oh well, let's go in. And then it's like, oh well, they won't let us in because apparently it's storming. Lightning and golf clubs is a bad idea. And so instead of like, hey, maybe we should get home, he's like, all right, yeah, let's go get those tacos. And so we go to this taco joint, and I guess like he couldn't find it, so he's like, what the hell? So we walked over to the next business. He's like, where's the taco? This used to be like a taco place. And they're like, sir, that burned down in the 1980s. So like we're just completely fucking around at this point. I'm like, okay, great. And then so we're in his like death trap of a truck from like the 1980s. Like this thing is already unsafe. It doesn't even have a seatbelt. Like I'm 8 years old. I don't have a fucking seatbelt on in this car. And we just hear we hear sirens go off, and then we're in the truck on the radio. The guy was like, tornado warning, take shelter immediately. And it was like really close to where we were. Like I couldn't see it, but I mean, it was close enough to definitely cause like panic. So people were like mass hurting under a bridge with their cars, which apparently you should never do in a tornado.
Really?
Yeah.
That surprises
It's
me.
actually a horrible idea because it almost acts as like a wind tunnel. So like debris will like fly and like basically shred you in your car. So yeah, apparently, because I've actually read that in multiple places, like do not get under a bridge in a tornado.
Okay.
So we're just under this bridge, like waiting for this fucking storm to pass, and then like we get back to his place, and like there's a bunch of damage everywhere. Fences are knocked down, the power's completely out, like everything just got completely fucked. And so from that point on, I was absolutely petrified of tornadoes, funnel clouds, like anything that could be a tornado, I fucking freak the fuck out. But like thunderstorms don't bother me. Like everyone always gets that confused. Like, oh, it's storming outside. Trevor's scared. It's like, no, it's just if there's a swirling vortex of death outside, I'm scared. So
Yeah. There is a obvious distinct difference between the two.
Yeah. But I definitely think the closest call we ever had, well, because out where I lived, we had a lot of land you could kind of see for a while, and there would be plenty of years where we'd be all out outside watching the storm kind of go on. They're calling tornado warnings, and you can see funnel clouds like kind of dipping down and then going back up. So you like, and you can see shit swirling, but never saw one ever like touch down, and I still haven't to this day. But closest call I ever had was when I was with you. So it was people will remember this day as this when that tornado rolled through Mesquite and Garland, like the Mesquite Garland area. We were coming back from Arlington that day because it was like the day after Christmas, I want to say, or something like that.
I think that was December 26, 2016.
Yeah, there we go. So, and we were coming back, and I remember, so like the weather looks horrible, but if you're like a grown man in Texas, you don't give like two fucking shits about the weather, which is exactly how my dad was. It's like, hey, that looks horrible out there. He's like, yeah, well, we're driving right into it, so just no regard for. Or like tornadoes are popping up. My dad's just standing outside with his hands on his hip, like, oh well, yeah, look at this weather, and it's like, what the you fucking psychopath. And so we're getting ready to go into this. We're gonna try to beat it, and I'm in the back seat, and we were bringing leftovers, and this motherfucker like turns a corner, and no one told me that there were like liquid beans in this motherfucker, so it just spills like all over me. I'm like, hey, whoa, Dad, like there's like beans back here. And so he's pissed at me for some reason. I mean, it's not even my fault. I was just like, hey, we should clean these fucking beans up. So he gets all annoyed. We pull into a 7-Eleven. We like wipe everything down. And the beans comes back later. But wipe everything down, then we get going. Well, the weather is getting like more and more horrific as we're driving. And then by the time we get into kind of like the Garland area, we all have to like we had to stop on the road, right? Yeah. We all had to like stop on the road because it got like so horrendous that... like shit was just hitting the fan. I mean, basically there was a tornado in front of us. Like, and what we didn't realize at the time is while we were kind of like stopped on this road, we were only about like 5 to 10 minutes off from this tornado rolling through the highway and destroying a bunch of shit on the we could see the damage of the condos on the side of the road, and
there was shit all over the roads, like tree branches, fucking debris.
Yeah.
Like you said, we were probably like 5 to 10 minutes behind this thing.
Oh yeah, we definitely were. Like it had literally just rolled through, and you could see like kind of the aftermath of that happening. And like that is probably the most scared I have ever been in my life, because if you're in your house, you at least have like maybe somewhere you could go, you can like duck and cover. Like we're just sitting in a truck while there's a tornado outside, and clearly, I mean, it's so black that you can't see anything. But I remember looking off in the distance and seeing like swirling shit. I'm like, we're on the highway, and I'm watching clouds circle. Like, we're all gonna fucking die. So I was literally just sitting there, like, head down, like, I ain't looking. I'm fucking, I'm terrified.
So there are a few things that I remember from that night, but one of the things that I remember the most is seeing all the tree branches and the debris on the ground, on the road. Sorry, not just the ground, on the fucking road. And then in addition to that, we were going over some bridge, and I think it may have been Lake Ray Hubbard we were over.
Yeah, it was.
And so I was looking off to the left, whatever direction that is. I don't know if it's north, south, east, west, whatever. But I was looking to the left, and in the far, like on the horizon, you could see, like occasionally lightning would light up and the sky would be yellow.
Oh,
and
yeah.
like I think I could see the tornado. At least I thought I could.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, I was excited. Like,
oh, yeah, no, I remember you and Sawyer were both like, this is cool. And I'm like freaking out. I'm like, no, this is not cool. It's like, we're all going to fucking die. Yeah, no, I remember looking in that same direction, though, because like as we kind of were progressing over the bridge, I was finally like, all right, like I'll scope this out, and fucking in that same kind of direction over where like the condos were in Rockwall, and like you could tell it had like knocked out the power or something, because
everything was dark,
completely. Like you see where a light should be, and like, hey, I should see like a cityscape, and it's like blocks were just knocked out, no power, pitch black. And I remember that was like the most eerie thing ever, because then you're seeing lightning like flash everywhere, and like some spots where you're like, okay, mate, is that a tornado? Is it not? Looks like it could be, no idea. And then just like blocks of cities with no power, and that was like, it just felt like the apocalypse is what it felt like.
See, that honestly, the feeling that I got from that sort of mirrors the feeling that I got from the winter storm that we just had like a couple of months ago.
Oh, wow, no,
in January. Like, shit like that is just really exciting.
I mean, I agree. Like, I like the snowstorms. I mean, obviously, I probably would not like the blizzards up in Colorado and shit like that. But the snowstorms here, I mean, other than when it, knocked out power for billions of people, but they're usually not bad. So like the snowstorms don't bother me. That's like a different thing. But like tornadoes, like you're just sitting there, and I know you said you thought that was cool, but like kind of just at the mercy of nature. I'm like, yeah, no, I hate this shit because it's completely, I can't do fucking shit about it. So
See, but the cool thing about it is, one, it puts your life into a really unique perspective that you don't typically get. Like, I mean, this may sound kind of stupid, but I get the feeling that most people think that we are like at the top and next to invincible, save for the problems that we can cause ourselves, like car crashes, murders, shit like that. I think a lot of people tend to not think about how destructive nature can be in their day-to-day lives. So to see that just with my own eyes, really, it was humbling and it was fucking amazing.
well, yeah, it's like at any point the Earth can just say fuck you and kill you, like
Yeah.
whenever the hell it wants, basically.
And that's awesome. Yeah,
well, I mean, I agree that the concept is awesome, but when you're sitting there with death in your face, it's like, yeah, no, I don't want to go. I'm good. Yeah, no, tornadoes they've been terrifying. But yeah, I remember after that was definitely the closest call I think I had ever had, because like I said, had we not spilled those fucking beans, like we probably would have been directly in that thing's path.
I remember you saying that.
Yeah, because like I said, we were only a couple minutes off from that. There was no way we weren't. And yeah, so if I guarantee you, had we not had to stop and clean that shit up for like 5 to 10 minutes, that we would have been sitting directly in the eye of that storm. So we got lucky as shit, because I mean that did kill some people. So yeah, it's been like right in that area too. So yeah, definitely the closest call. But it was after that incident, and then like the year before, of us being on the land and like almost witnessing a tornado touching down near our house, that my dad finally, he got with Dewey next door, and they installed a storm shelter in between their lands, because it's like, fuck it, we've had too many close calls. And so that reminds me of like this funny time. So there was a tornado basically blowing through Royce City a couple years back. I want to say 2018, something like that. I was freshly back from college. And it was just me and my sister at the house. And so, like, the weather is fucking it is pitch black, horrifying looking outside. And, like, winds are picking up. Like, you can literally our house is howling because the way the wind is seeping in. It sounds so bad. And so I walk into Savannah's room. I'm like, all right, like, let's go get in the office, because it's the one area that has no windows or anything.
Yeah.
Let's go get in the office, because that's... we're gonna be safer there. And she's like, oh my God, you're such a baby. I was like, Savannah, there's a tornado probably only a couple miles from where we are right now. She's like, oh shit, for real? I'm like, yes. What? How do you? It sounds horrible. How do you not know this? And so I make her get into the room with me, and she's like, oh, this is dumb. And I'm like, okay, yeah, sorry, I'm being cautious. And then I was like, okay, well, this is getting really bad. We should maybe try to make our way for the storm cellar. Like, this is bad. So I remember I go and I open the garage, and literally the rain is horizontal and it is blowing so fast. Like you open it up and it looks like apocalypse. Just like, and I was like, and immediately I just looked at her and I just closed the garage. Like, nope, because we are staying inside.
Holy shit.
Oh yeah, that was pretty terrifying. But that one was like, I mean, who knows where it was? I have no idea, but it wasn't, I mean, it didn't do any damage to our property or anything. So we were fine, but nonetheless, it's like, yeah, that's usually the reaction I get when I try to take the storms like more serious from anyone that's around me, is always like, oh, quit being a pussy. It's like, why? Everyone's a pussy until the fucking tornado is blowing your house down, and then who's the pussy? So it's like, you got to take it semi-serious.
Yeah. Like, I'm not going to shit on you for taking something potentially life-threatening seriously.
I think it harkens back to what you said about kind of feeling invincible. And it's like, oh, and then it's like, oh, it's kind of rare for a tornado to like destroy your shit. But I mean, if it's going to happen anywhere, it's going to happen here. Like, we live in fucking Tornado Alley, and it's you know, I'm sure that's what everyone thinks. It's like, oh, Nader ain't hitting my home, and then it's like, oh, my home's gone. Like, so yeah, I don't know.
Damn.
Yeah.
So I don't want to take a super hard left turn, but I have no convenient way to segue into this.
Yeah, we're bad at that anyway. So go ahead and let's jump over. We've kind of been on Naders for a minute, so let's.
Okay, so this is the Galveston hurricane of 1900.
Okay, I think I've heard something about this.
When I was in 7th grade, I had to read a book about the hurricane of 1900, the Galveston hurricane of 1900 for
Okay.
social studies. And to this date, it is the deadliest natural disaster in American history.
Really?
But that is partially because of a blunder by, I think it's called the Weather Bureau? Yeah, the Weather Bureau, the predecessor to the NOAA.
Okay.
So the history behind that is for a declaration of a hurricane warning, regional meteorologists had to get approval from Washington
Really?
to issue a hurricane warning.
So it didn't matter where you were, you had to have approval from one. Oh, that's fucking. What
Yeah.
a dumb rule.
I know. But it gets worse. So a weather institute in Cuba called the Bellin Observatory knew that a hurricane was coming. Like the Bellin Observatory at the time was like among the top meteorological institutions in the world. And
Really?
they knew a hurricane was coming. Unfortunately, they couldn't tell us because the director of the Weather Bureau, I forgot this fucker's name, but it's something more. The director of this institution cut off all information from Cuba because of tensions due to the aftermath of the Spanish-American War at the time.
Oh, yep.
So the combination of the shitty warning system by having your hurricane warning having to be approved by Washington and ignoring international help from Cuba caused the deadliest fucking storm in history. Like, had people been warned, they would have been all right. But a memoir from one of the guys who lived in the storm, Isaac Klein, like, there were just people chilling. They were having a good... I mean, like, obviously not in the path of the hurricane.
Hey, you supposedly should be worried about that on the horizon.
Fucking, like, nobody... They could tell that the weather was getting bad, but I think they just thought it was like a really bad thunderstorm. And then all of a sudden, storm surges come in. They brush through the city. Not cars. I remember in this memoir, there was something about rafters and window shutters just banging until getting ripped off.
Yeah.
And there were people in this hurricane who actually tried to drown themselves because they were terrified. But their, like, self-preservation kicked in, and they couldn't.
Jesus Christ. I never want to be in a position where I'm so terrified I choose to drown myself as opposed to keep going. Because that sounds like one of the worst fucking ways to go.
I completely agree. Now, it may not sound like a lot, but 6,000 to 12,000 people died.
I mean, that's a
hurricane.
shitload of people from a hurricane.
I agree.
Damn. Wow. Yeah, that's insane. So that reminds me of. So I was looking a little bit into tsunamis and like tidal waves, and there was this one specific one that's similar in that regard. So here's something that I didn't know. So like obviously most tsunamis are caused by earthquakes that eventually the tide gets gigantic and slams into the shore.
Yeah.
But some of them can be caused by just having like a large reservoir of water and then having like a shitload of land like collapse into it. And you can cause like a tsunami that way. Matter of fact, I think one of the biggest on record, it was kind of up in Alaska, something like that happened. Like a landslide went into some giant reservoir, like a bay area, and it caused a fucking massive tidal wave that was literally like bigger than the Empire State Building, was how tall this wave was.
Shit.
So similar. So back in like the 60s, there was this city in Italy, and I forget the name of it. I was just watching a video on it today. And so they had like this giant dam, like reservoir, kind of like over the city. And it's like pictures of there's a city, and then above it is like the dam that keeps the water from flowing into it. It's just like a giant reservoir. Well, I guess they were doing like excavations or something up in the mountains where the actual reservoir was, and people, literally scientists and everyone who knew anything about geology was trying to tell these people to stop excavating and fucking with shit because the mountain was going to collapse. And they all saw it. They all kept trying to say, but they all kept getting ignored, to the point where like the government tried to sue journalists for reporting on it, saying they were disturbing the public peace. So just constantly kept ignoring it. But then at some point they were like, okay, like to kind of appease people, maybe we'll take it like a little bit serious. So they did some like calculations, and they lowered the reservoir to what they thought, because they knew that a landslide was going to happen. It was going to go into the reservoir. So they lowered the reservoir to what they thought was a safe amount where it wouldn't cause any problems. And they did some calculations, and they were so sure of themselves that they even had like workers standing on like the bridge of the dam, like when they calculated like pretty much to a T when the landslide would occur. And so they even had people just standing on the bridge like, oh yeah, whatever, we're good. Well, the landslide was 10 times more powerful than they had calculated. So when the landslide like fucking fell into the reservoir, it completely launched like it was about the size of some gigantic structure in San Francisco, like a giant skyscraper. It was the size of this tidal wave. And directly below it is a city. So it like not even like, oh, hey, it's like flowing into the shore. It crashes into the shore from above. Like, well, not even a shore, it's just a fucking city. And I mean, when I saw the pictures of what it did to this fucking city, it literally left like a blast crater. It was so fucking strong. I gotta look this up because like there is like city beautiful, and then it just looks like dirt. Like it's just wiped out. Like biblical Old Testament, like angry God wipeout.
See, this is why you should listen to scientists. I mean, among other reasons, that's a pretty good testament as to why, in general, you should let the experts do the talking.
I like how this title of this article is "Landslide Kills Thousands" when it should be "Ignorant Government and Tidal Wave Kills Thousands."
Honestly.
Oh my god! Yeah, workers living alongside the dam were killed instantly, and it killed more than 2,000 people.
No doubt.
Yeah, it's insane. So what's the name of this? Vajont? I don't even know how you say this. Vajont Dam. Yeah, so for reference, Michael, this is so it was like, this is the dam, and then below is the city. So they said that imagine this entire skyline, like if you look up, it's just water. Like
Holy
that's
shit.
how much it was. And then, God, I want to find pictures of this. Like, it just completely fucking decimated this place.
Yeah, so for the homies that are listening, we're looking at the Wikipedia article of, what is it, the Vajont tsunami?
They call it landslide. The Vajont landslide is what they keep referring to it as. But basically, I mean, it was a landslide technically that killed them, but I mean, it's the fucking water.
Oh, God.
I mean, I can't even fathom it. Like, it was so much land that went into, like, it completely filled, like, the reservoir, I think, with just rocks.
All that water has to go somewhere.
Yeah. That's basically what the city looked like afterwards. It looks like a bomb in Hiroshima went off. Like, the city is leveled.
Yeah, the city was reduced to rubble in this black and white picture.
Like I said, Old Testament shit is what that is.
Holy shit.
Yeah, so I read on that because I was kind of looking at some of the tsunamis that have happened, like, the one in Japan, and then the Indian Ocean one from like 2004, and that one was mentioned. And I was like, why is no one talking about this? This one's fucking nuts. Like,
Was that man-made? Like, was that landslide man-made?
I mean, effectively, yes.
Okay.
So, I mean, technically it wasn't a true natural disaster. Like, if they hadn't been fucking with the mountain as much as they were, that wouldn't have happened. Or if they, had just listened in the beginning and lowered the reservoir, if it had happened naturally, it wouldn't have caused any concern, but they didn't listen, and they basically, the Italian government murdered 2,000 people.
Okay, so speaking of destructive power, there is a theoretical storm called a hypercane. And I know the prefix hyper is something that I typically hate when it's not warranted. Mm-hmm. But seeing the simulations of what these things were supposed to look like, this is absolutely warranted. This is a hypercane is a theoretical global storm. It's like a hurricane, but global. And apparently, it's believed that the meteor strike that wiped out the dinosaurs in the Jurassic era triggered some hypercanes.
Yeah, it also triggered like the largest tsunamis of all time as well.
Yeah.
They actually called it. So it's funny you call them hypercanes, but that tsunami that I just mentioned to you earlier is actually a phenomenon known as a mega tsunami.
Fuck yeah.
So that one, I guess technically the one that wiped out the city was a mega tsunami, and this is a hypercane. So yeah, a global hurricane basically.
Yeah.
I'm looking at a picture of a hurricane just completely engulfing the entire United States.
Yeah.
Or like at least the entire eastern half, like as far in as Ohio.
I saw that picture earlier. So, like, imagine a hurricane that takes up half the area of the United States.
Yeah.
That is a hypercane. And these things can apparently exist only if the average ocean temperature is roughly 15 degrees Celsius warmer than what it currently is.
Oh.
So we're not going to see it in our lifetime. I mean, we may not see it for several hundred lifetimes.
Right, yeah.
But if the ocean temperature rises to, I mean, I don't know what it is now, but 15 degrees Celsius more than what it currently is, the conditions are ripe for global hurricanes.
Jesus. That reminds me of the one on Jupiter.
Oh shit! The fuck.
The red spot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder how big the red spot is, because I think literally just the hurricane on Jupiter is about the size of the Earth.
I thought it was bigger than the Earth.
Yeah, it might be. You might be able to fit a couple of Earths into it.
Yeah, like I may be wrong, but I thought you could fit like dozens of Earths.
Yeah, that's what I initially thought, but I went for lower number just to not sound as dumb. Because if I'm wrong, I don't. Here, let's look it up. So Jupiter, and that's insane too. Like just this gigantic hurricane that's lasted hundreds of years. Like imagine a global hurricane on Earth that just never
just
stops.
Doesn't stop. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, well, America, it's fucked.
We would not have life anywhere. I mean, microbes could probably survive, but we wouldn't.
Yeah, I mean, on the UN. I mean, do you think you'd be able to, like, if it just stayed in place, like, on one certain section, like, you don't think that would be, like, cataclysmic for, like, other parts of the world, do you? Or would it just be...
I mean, like, honestly, I don't know how strong these things were, but I imagine if it stayed on one place, like, it seems big enough to influence ocean currents, like, almost globally.
Yeah.
So I imagine there would be some, I don't want to call it cataclysmic on the far reaches of this static hypercane, but I imagine there would be some shit that gets fucked up.
Yeah.
Cataclysmic? No.
You're just like you're like one of those flat earthers, and you're like, I'm gonna prove that it's flat, and then you just sail directly into the hypercane. It's like, all right, well, Herman's gone.
Not just gone.
Yeah.
Like pulverized in a way that we have not yet known.
It's about twice as wide as the size of Earth.
Okay, so I'm a fuckhead.
The red
Great red spot.
Great red spots on Jupiter. Yeah, I mean, that's just what a crazy concept.
Yeah. You know, Jupiter is expected to have a sea of methane underneath all of its gas clouds.
Really? I heard if you I watched a video on what happens if you fell into Jupiter, and it's basically worse than death. It's worse than hell because you fall into it, and then like somewhere midway through, like the gravity, because you know Jupiter's all gas, so you just fall directly through the fucking planet. But you hit like this certain point, like midway down, where, you know, it's incredibly hot, like the temperatures are like boiling, and the way that gravity and like its gases work is that you're just kind of suspended in like free fall, and like you're not going down, you're not going up, you're just like floating and boiling alive, basically. So it would be fucked. If you fell into Jupiter, you're dead.
Yeah. In addition to that, you can't call for help because, I mean, by that point, the clouds above you are so fucking thick that no radio waves can get through them.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's insane. So Jupiter is the worst natural disaster of them all.
Sorry, did I say methane? I think it was hydrogen. A sea of hydrogen.
Sea of hydrogen? Okay. Yeah, I have no idea. I don't know shit about Jupiter. Looks cool.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So I feel like another one that we should definitely talk about, which I'm sure was on your list somewhere, but Yellowstone.
I am concerned about Yellowstone. Like, that's a fear in the back of my mind
At all
once
times.
a week.
Yeah, I constantly think about Yellowstone. I mean, from everything that scientists have said is that they think that we're more likely to be struck by an asteroid than for Yellowstone to erupt. Like, obviously, it's getting to the point where it is worrisome, but we, in many, many more of our lifetimes, won't have to worry about Yellowstone. At least that's what they say. The fuckers who let the landslide into the reservoir were completely sure on their math, and then look at them, they're fucking dead now. But yeah, Yellowstone. So basically, a fucking super volcano just underneath the surface. Ticking. Literally, everyone has just called it a ticking time bomb. And when it goes off, if you live anywhere in the literal tri-state area, you are immediately incinerated. Yeah, because like everything that is the actual Yellowstone Park, which is a gigantic landmass, is like immediately coated in lava. Like everything is destroyed. If you're in that red zone, you're fucked. Like you're dead, absolutely, like immediately dead. And then everything like thousands of miles outside of that is basically covered in ash. Like immediately, like several feet of ash.
Thousands. Like, from Texas to Florida is only 1,000 miles.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, fuck. Okay,
It's
well,
like
hundreds of miles then.
1154.
Nonetheless, like yeah, like a pretty. I was looking at graphs, so I don't really know what the actual like footage is, but
That's okay. Like, I was just about to say, like, if it's thousands of miles, the entire United States is fucked.
No. So it's mainly. I mean, well, like everyone is fucked if this
Well,
if
of
this
course.
blows up, everyone is fucked.
Sorry,
but,
I meant to say the entire United States is
Yeah.
covered in ash.
But
feet of ash.
literally, the only parts that aren't covered in some degree of ash are southern Texas. Well, I mean, at least like radiating like away, like southern toward away from the blast. Like the only part of Texas that wouldn't be covered in it would be like very southern, like tip of Texas. So that's how much like soot would be thrown into the air, and then it would be so bad that it would basically plunge the Earth into a winter, basically like a nuclear winter, essentially, and it would drop like global temperatures by. I don't remember how much they said it was, but a very concerning amount where it would basically cause like widespread famine on just about every continent.
Bro, I would fucking kill myself.
I mean, that would be such a nightmare scape to live in, because they believe that a couple like super volcanoes about the size of Yellowstone erupted like way long ago when humans kind of like first emerged, and they say that it plunged our numbers down to like a couple of thousand humans. Like so, yeah. I mean, it's a pretty good way to kill us all. If that thing erupts, we're all fucked. Like absolutely fucked.
Yeah, holy shit.
Because like there's been some that have happened in recorded human history, 1700s, 1800s, and then even some like St. Helens in the 80s that have been like relatively small in terms of scale. So like they rate them, I think it's like one, I don't know, it's 1 to something, but like the ones that we have seen in recorded human history have only been about like 4 to a 5, and like even something like a 7 is. I mean, I think the one that was a 7 was the one that dwindled our numbers down to a couple thousands in the early days. Then like an 8 is I think what Yellowstone would be if it erupts.
There we go.
And it's just doomsday.
Holy shit.
Because what was it? One of the crazy things. So like when Krakatoa exploded like a couple hundred years ago, I think it was in like the 1800s, like mid 1800s. Everything outside, it was the blast was so unbelievably fucking loud that anyone who was in like several miles of the blast immediately had their eardrums shattered. Like, you're fucking deaf. It was so loud that, here, let me show you a map. But it was basically, it's kind of like an island in like Oceania, and it was so fucking loud that people at the very bottom of Australia could hear it. Like, and hear it clearly. Not like, it's like, hey, what the fuck was that kind of loud? Because I guess that's been like pretty well documented. But yeah, say like nearby sailors who were like off the kind of off the islands, like away from the initial blast, eardrums completely blown.
Holy shit.
Yeah, and that was only like a 5 on the scale.
Yeah, there's nothing you can do about that. If you don't know that a blast is coming, you're fucked.
And I'm not sure if it was Krakatoa or which one it was. Oh, no, it was the one before Krakatoa. But there was this one that exploded about like early 1800s where it plunged the Earth basically into like a year-long winter, and it was literally known as the year without a summer. And it did crazy shit where places like New York and Maine, it was snowing in June.
Fuck.
Like, yeah, it was literally the year without a summer. And that was, so I mean, I guess, I mean, people didn't get, well, people got pretty fucked by that. That caused pretty bad famine, I think, especially in like Russia or something like that. It got pretty bad. So yeah, that's just insane.
It's crazy to imagine that something like that could completely disrupt our way of life as we know it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the ones that are probably the most concerning are the volcanoes, because like when they blow, they're like, we're taking all of you fucking with us. Yeah, because then like that, because like the effects are literally felt around the world, so it's like, oh, here we go. Here's a good representation of it. So here's Krakatoa.
Oh, fuck yeah.
And anyone kind of like, oh yeah, it like immediately killed everyone on like every nearby island. Like, because there was this one, so I think it also caused like tidal waves to crash into some of the nearby villages. So basically anything inside like the very short blast radius, you were immediately dead. And then everything kind of like in this area, your eardrums were fucking blown, and you could like people as far much as over here into Australia, like tip of Australia, could hear the blast perfectly. So yeah, that's insane.
That is thousands of miles.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit.
So yeah, those are pretty terrifying. But I mean, I don't think there's any that we really have to worry about. Like, you know, there's some like volcanoes that are like active, but none that are gonna fucking plunge the world into a nuclear winter. But Yellowstone is definitely, in general, the most concerning, because when it goes, it's gonna cause a lot of fucking problems.
Oh yeah. No doubt about that.
Yeah.
So what I think is crazy is that, I mean, I'll just go out and say the fucking climate change is gonna make all the natural disasters that we're experiencing more frequent, and they could potentially be worse.
Yeah. Well, I mean, isn't I can't remember, but like the reason that the oceans, I mean, basically the oceans are the perfect temperature that allow like big hurricanes to happen anyways. And I think like the warmer it gets, like the worse it gets. And then obviously, like as you were saying, like, if it gets like 15 degrees more than what it currently is, then we have hypercanes. Yeah. So then, I mean, we're already experiencing global warming, and then we're just exacerbating it. And so like, yeah, I mean, that's already been theorized for a while, and I think that was kind of a prediction like long ago about climate change, was that if it gets worse, like we're going to see like much larger and more severe storms, and then, you know, we've had a record amount of hurricanes, and then like some of the each one or several in the past decade have been incredibly disastrous. I mean, just take a look at Katrina, for God's fucking sake. I mean, is that the worst? No, the worst one is the Galveston one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you said, that's because of a fuck up. But yeah, I mean, Katrina is probably like not far on that list.
Yeah. So when I was looking at it, Hurricane Katrina and Hurricane Harvey were both pretty bad, but that's also because they were around the same area as the hurricane of 1900, like the southern United States, Texas, Louisiana area. So I'm not entirely sure if the statistic is that those were the worst ones for the region, or if they were the worst hurricanes in general. Admittedly, I did not look too deep into that. But the article that I read did mention Harvey and Katrina were both bad for, at the very least, the region.
Okay, well, here's the 15 worst hurricanes of all time. Let's scroll down. Oh, so apparently there was, so number one is the Great Hurricane of 1780.
There we fucking go.
What
was that, 22,000 deaths?
Something insane. I'll take a look on that. So there was, and then the next one is just Mitch.
What the fuck?
So top three, Hurricane of 1780. Then number two is Mitch. And then number three is Galveston Hurricane of 1900. Then it's Maria. And then it's Katrina.
Okay.
What the fuck is Maria?
I don't know. But to experience, I'm not even going to say that I experienced, but to be around during the fifth worst hurricane in recorded history, That's insane.
Oh wow, I feel like a huge piece of shit. This was the one. This is the one that Maria's the one that happened in 2017 that I think slammed into Puerto Rico.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, the one that like Trump was being a complete fucking asshole about like throwing, what was it, like paper towels? He was shooting them like they were like had a fucking t-shirt cannon or something.
Oh, my God.
Oh yeah, wow. I feel bad that I didn't. I forgot about that. Okay, so that clearly is getting glossed over much more than it should be. So let's go back. So Great Hurricane of 1780. All right, let's see. Oh, okay. So the Great Hurricane of 1780 blasted its way through the Caribbean, killing approximately 22,000 people.
There we go.
Oh, so you have read about this.
I glanced at it today.
It literally killed British and American soldiers who were like skirmishing in warships that were scattered throughout the region because of the Revolutionary War.
Jesus.
That's insane.
I did not know that.
I mean, that's just weird to put it in perspective. There's not much data regarding the speed of rainfall, but we do know that the storm bombarded several Caribbean islands. One local observer wrote that the hurricane stripped bark off of trees, which caused most people to speculate that the winds probably topped about 200 miles an hour.
God.
This is considered the deadliest of all time. Yeah, 22,000 people like just ravaged throughout the Caribbean. That is nuts. And then
Now, what's the deadliest typhoon? Because I think a typhoon is just the equivalent of a hurricane in like the Pacific.
it's possible. I thought the only difference was literally that they just rotated a different way.
Yeah, I think one rotate. I'm not even gonna hazard a guess, but
Okay, here, well, yo, let's look it up. Difference between hurricane, and who the fuck would get a hurricane and a tsunami confused? That's the first one.
fuck Google.
I'm going to Bing. Fuck this. The only difference between a hurricane and a typhoon is the location where the storm occurs.
Boom.
That's literally. I mean, that's what I always thought, because I know the people on like the other side of the world, they call them typhoons.
Yeah.
Okay, so then let's just say deadliest. Let's see if Google was being like a, oh my god, what is it? Like one of those
Pedant.
like technically, like what is that? What's the word for that? I don't know. My brain's failing, but whatever. Google's just being a hipster about it. It's like, well, technically, it's you said deadliest hurricane, not typhoon.
Yeah, I think that's somebody being a pedant, somebody who's overly obsessed with the meanings of words.
Probably. Deadliest typhoon, Nina.
Oh, God.
The gang will get that one. Okay. Template. Deadliest typhoons. Nina in 1975. Looks like it crashed into China. Is that what it is? Yeah, no, that's China.
What's the death toll, out of curiosity?
Oh, holy shit. At least 229,000 people. Why are these not talked about? Okay, so
Holy fuck.
they died after the typhoon triggered a dam to collapse in a province in China, which devastated. Oh, no, I did read a little bit about this. I forgot about that. Yeah. So yeah, this hurricane like slammed in, and then kind of just like by proxy, it caused this dam to collapse, which just like flooded villages and homes, and it killed a shitload of people. So
229,000 people.
yeah, 229,000 people. That is fucking insane.
Fuck.
Holy shit. Yeah, so that's insane. Okay, so Typhoon Nina is the worst ever, and then there's like some back as far as 1780, and then there's one in 1862, but it looks like I can't click on those. But there's another one in 1922 called the Sato. I don't know. Sato typhoon. I don't know how to pronounce this shit. That fatality was 60,000 people.
Which is much worse than the worst recorded hurricane of 22,000 people. Like, that's 3 times the amount of deaths.
Yeah, so I don't know why they don't like lump this together. Why aren't we constantly talking about our shit? Because this is way fucking worse.
Yeah.
This is way worse.
Where did that occur?
That one was, once again, looks like it hit Philippines and China.
Damn.
Yeah.
See, part of me wonders if that's just because of population density.
I'm sure that
But
has like a big factor into it. I don't know if they measured out by like, oh well, if you map it out based on percentages, then technically the ours over here is worse. And it's like, okay,
yeah,
but I mean, 229,000 people is a fucking ass load of people.
yeah. If
Uh,
we're sorry,
yeah. No, go ahead.
so earlier you mentioned Jupiter's Great Red Spot.
Uh-huh.
So if we're talking about natural disasters, I think one of the worst possible potential natural disasters is a gamma ray burst.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, so you know more about that than I do. But when we get hit by that, what happens? Does it just like boil us, or does it just immediately vaporize us? How does that work?
Well, I mean, I guess it depends on the energy of the shit, but like if it's gamma rays, it already has a shit ton of energy.
Yeah.
So a portion, likely circular, of the Earth would just be bombarded with high energy fucking, it's effectively high energy light.
Really.
And like if they didn't die, a lot of them would get cancer and their life expectancies would be drastically shortened if they weren't like burned to fuck already.
Let's see what happens if a gamma ray hits Earth. All right. So if we had a gamma ray shot directly at us, the radiation would destroy a significant portion of our atmosphere, specifically the ozone layer.
Good.
It would cause some kind of chemical reaction, which would lead to a photochemical smog.
Beautiful.
And deplete our protection from cosmic rays. So, I mean, yeah, basically it would, so if we got hit, it would like destroy our ozone layer, and then we would just get bombarded by UV rays from the sun. Like we would essentially just start getting cooked by the sun.
Shit would be bad.
Yeah.
Like life would be altered, to say the very, very, very least.
Yeah. Yeah, so basically it's like, oh, gamma ray, and then if you see this picture, this is an artist depiction of the Earth on fire.
Oh yeah, so half the Earth is cooked.
Yeah.
So
Oh, that's right. Yeah, whatever side of the Earth was... I think I've seen a Kyrgyzstan video on that. Like, whatever side of the Earth is facing the gamma ray. Like, if you're on the other side, you're probably all right for then. But, like,
Yeah.
you're pretty much vaporized on, like, that side of the Earth. Holy shit. Yeah. And then, obviously, the greatest natural disaster of them all, vacuum decay. Where you are here 1 minute and then deleted the next.
yep.
Yeah, because I looked into that. That was another area I got into. It was like ways the world could end now, and then it's like a lot of it is like cosmic shit, an asteroid wiping us out, gamma rays, vacuum decay. But
Yeah.
we don't really experience those. We experience just all the other horrifying shit: the volcanoes, hurricanes, tornadoes, and
Yep.
tsunamis.
We need some asteroids to spice things up.
I think things have been spiced up enough in the last
No.
year.
Nope.
Yeah. Nope.
To tell you what though, I can't remember if this has already happened or if it will happen within the next 100 or 200 years. But there's going to be an asteroid that's going to come within 32,000 kilometers of the Earth, roughly 64,000 miles. That's less than the distance between the Earth and the Moon.
Really?
Yeah. That would be a pretty significant natural disaster.
That would suck.
I mean, 32,000 kilometers is a very large distance, but on a cosmic scale,
I was about
that's
to,
like
that was my
nothing.
next
That's
sentence. Like on the
nothing.
cosmic scale, that's very, very small.
Yeah, like that's... Fuck. So the circumference of the Earth is roughly 30,000 miles. So if you were to just take the distance around the Earth and approximately divide it by 2, and then put that distance on, say, the equator and measured it out, like that's how far this asteroid would be from us.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's a horrible way to go out, but I mean, if you're in the blast zone of an asteroid, I mean, your death is immediate, so.
I would fucking hope so.
I mean, yeah. Well, I mean, you probably just like catch on fire like before it like actually hit, because, as it gets closer and closer, I think it just kind of like cooks you. Like you just, why does everything got to go out in a fucking fire? Why is fire the way to go?
I guess because fire signifies great power.
Great. fucking some kind of chemical reaction. But yeah, it's like, oh no, if you just like slam, it's like, oh hey, if like two cars hit each other, it's fine. But it's like if every time a car got into like a fender bender, that one of them fucking exploded. Like it's kind of how the universe is. All right, you got any more?
No, I'm all tapped out.
I am also all tapped out. I mean, I really, like I said, I didn't do too much research. I just kind of have like general knowledge of some of these like more, some of these disasters that I looked at. And one of the ones that kept like blowing my mind about it was the, like some of the blasts that, like some of the volcanic eruptions that we've measured in human history literally had like thousands of times more like firepower than the atomic bombs that we have dropped, and like some even more so than like the biggest one we've ever created, which is the Tsar Bomba. Like, and that to me is just it's basically like a nuclear fucking explosion on an island, and that, you know, shatters people's eardrums.
I just cannot. Excuse me. I just cannot imagine being that close. Like, imagine you're in the 1800s. They don't have the technology to repair anybody's fucking eardrums.
Yeah.
So, boom, your eardrums are shattered. Thousands of people around you's eardrums are shattered. You're all just fucking deaf.
Yeah,
immediately.
And then you look over, and there was once a village. There is now no village. Yeah, no, I can't picture that either. Like, that's just and I'm sure you're all like, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah.
Like, you'd be so confused, and then you look over and see, you know, fire in the sky, and be like, okay, it probably has something to do with that.
Holy shit. Did they have sign language in the 1800s?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know how far sign language goes back. But
Yeah, I wonder
I'm
when
sure
that
it
came
does.
about, because that would pose some interesting communication challenges.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess, yeah, we're hitting right about that time. Been going on. By the time we edit it, it'll be a little under an hour, I think. But
Okay.
yeah. But yeah, so thank you guys very much for tuning in to another episode of the Modern Goonies podcast. I've been your host, Trevor King Minor, and this has been my lovely co-host, Michael Ross.
It's your boy, Michael Ross, who's drinking Lux Springs Hard Lemonade. This is an endorsement.
I do not condone this. No endorsements. Yeah, so we will be back next week for season 1, episode 4, and this next one's going to be a lot more lighthearted than some of the other topics that we've been talking about. We've been talking about all the ways that we can like destroy the universe and ourselves, and a lot of just like bleak ass shit and complicated stuff. So we're gonna take a week off from that, talk about more lighthearted stuff that a lot more people will be able to engage with, and then get right back to figuring out how we can blow ourselves up.
Hell yeah.
So yeah, thank you so much for tuning in. Tune in next week, and have a good night, guys.
Happy birthday.